Hi, everybody, and welcome to round 8 of the British Championships on this Saturday morning. So the players have had to get up early in order to play this round. Let's see how the players are looking. And if I make that, so I put us up here, you can see people. There's some action in the tournament hall, people walking around, and let's also see some of the games. So we have an exciting draw today. On the top board, we have Andrew Ledger against Danny Gormley. We have then Mark Hebden against Marcus Harvey. And we have Nick Pert against Joe Mcphillips. So Ledger, Gormley, Hebden, Harvey, and Pert are all equal in the lead with 5 points going into the penultimate round. I'm introducing Jonathan Blackburn, who is the Welsh online champion. Hi, Jonathan. Thank you for joining us on the stream.
Thanks for having me on. And yeah, I appreciate for this. A lot of these players, a 10 a.m. round start is not really probably what some of them like. And I'm okay. I've got a big mug of coffee with me. So
yeah.
I know that I'd be drinking coffee at the board probably. But all of these, they're meant to be athletes, aren't they? So
Exactly. It's all part of the game, isn't it? You have to be able to, because the rounds have been on at 2:30 every day up till now, and now it's 10 a.m. So that is a bit of a shock to the system because, of course, it's not just they're playing at 10 a.m., but they would have had to prep for their game, right? I mean, they're up against top players. They're going to have to look up who there's playing, prep for, I don't know, it could be several hours prep, right? Some of these guys do.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is that after a game, you think you've got, what time's the game been finishing roughly? About 6, 7, something like that?
Yeah. Some of them we're still going at 7 last night. And
you get into a routine, don't you? So you wake up in the morning, you have breakfast, you prepare, you have a little bit of a chill just before your game, play the game 4 or 5 hours long, and then you analyze the game afterwards, rush into to try and get some food in before it's too late, because you don't want to be eating at 9 o'clock. And then it's prep for the next day, kind of like a short prep. For some people, I guess people do it differently, but they would have had to prep all the way up to midnight, I should imagine, or wake up early and do the prep there. Depends on the individual, which is not ideal for them. So
yeah, do you have a sense? Do you think any of these players would particularly be well suited to cope with the change, or anywhere is really going to throw them out?
Well, I was in the same tournament as Marcus Harvey and Mark Hebden a month ago in August at the Wood Green International, and I would definitely say I think Marcus was always looking pretty awake in the morning. Mark always looks asleep, but I mean, I think that's just how he performed really well, actually. He's still performing well now, isn't he?
He's playing well, isn't he? I think he must be. Yes. Did you get the chance to speak to me? I think he is really welcoming the return to over the board play.
Yeah, because obviously he played in the online British, and I think he was just struggling to see the screen as well. That he had on, and it's not the same for him. And when you're playing over the board, he didn't lose a single game in Wood Green. I know he's lost one here, but he has got good victories, hasn't he, as well? So.
No, but he's been playing well here. Yeah. I hadn't even thought of that the online, he couldn't see the screen. I do get problems with my own screen sometimes, with it just being tiny and not quick. And oh gosh, so that could be why he really didn't enjoy the online so much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty impressed by how Nick Pert's come back from his first 2 round draws, which as well, he seems to have really put the afterburners on as well. But these last 2 rounds, and the problem is I guess whatever the results today, there's also tomorrow is going to be a load of other pairings, because they've pretty much all played each other, haven't they, as well, which is going to make it really awkward. That's
true. Yeah. All right. Should we see this game from the start? Andrew Ledger against Danny Gormley. So we've got.
Yeah, I think the only surprise here is Bishop G4 in this King's Engine setup, which, it's not really a big surprise.
Oh, I've played this line before.
Yeah, I tried that online a few times, because I think Fabiano Caruana played this way. He
Okay.
won a game. Wasn't I don't think it was in the candidates, but I'll try and look it up and see if I can find it.
Yeah.
But it's this is kind of like the new way of playing. I don't think Andrew would be surprised by it at all. I don't know if Danny has played this before or not. So we might have a look at that.
No, yeah, I imagine if he does, it would be some kind of thing he only plays from time to time, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the top grandmasters, they're going to vary their lines occasionally, aren't they? So
yeah,
it's but I'm just finding who, because I think pretty much it was Wojciech versus Caruana. It's what I think is happening here.
Yeah.
And Caruana played a brilliant game with Black. And this Bishop G4 line was meant to be kind of like a bit not well played.
Yeah.
So there's loads of other moves for Black here. I'm pretty sure E5, C5.
No,
nice.
I know. Yeah. I learned this. Oh gosh, I mean, I learned it. This sort of thing. I mean, it was like 30 years, not 30. Maybe it was 30. I don't know, 25 years ago, as a surprise weapon.
Yeah.
And you kind of exchange off sometimes on F3 and. But it was sort of considered. It was considered a line you could do as a surprise weapon. But at the time, it was not. You would. It was one of those ones where you'd have it as a surprise, but not. You would not use it as your main line, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. Maybe I'm thinking of something different. Can't seem to find the Caruana game, so I'll have a bit of a search while we're talking.
Yeah.
Because it's he's definitely played something like this recently. I don't know if this was the inspiration for Danny today or not, but. I like this kind of play for Blackburn because in the King's Indian, one, it's a choice, so it's a fighting choice, isn't it? In these lines, he's definitely going for the win here, and trying to make the most of it. And how did Andrew respond to this? What did he say?
Andrew, he went Bishop B3.
Okay.
And Knight D7, which I think is what you're meant to do.
Yeah.
And castles. So there we go. And we're at this position now.
Yeah.
Andrew's played the last two moves a little bit slowly, so I think he maybe was surprised by Bishop G4, and this wasn't what he was expecting the game to do.
Yeah. So you can see. I mean, you can see there that Danny spent a minute or so over castles and D6 earlier on.
Yeah.
Probably at that point, probably deciding what setup to go for.
Yes.
And
to me, he was not one of the ones who was up at 6 a.m. prepping for the day. And he was sort of let's dig out something that may be a little bit of a surprise, but that I don't have to spend hours on beforehand.
To be honest, this is what I do in my prep all the time. I just try and deviate as early as possible and spend maybe doing half an hour's prep rather than doing 3 hours prep trying to cover all the main lines. If I can get my opponents out of theory, then it's a lot less work for me. So I think pretty much my entire chess thing has been about laziness, really.
maximizing the effect of your effort, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'm expecting Danny to go something like C5 here, by the way.
Yes. Yeah, because I think sometimes you even, if I'm remembering it right, I could be remembering it wrong, but I think sometimes you even take on C3, don't you? Like
there was that's what Fabi did. He took an F3 because C3 in this line in that game. And giving away the two bishops for the two knights is such a risky decision at the highest level. Yeah. But I guess that the reason why this line is probably quite popular is that, as Black, you usually got less space. And therefore, when you swap off just one pair of minor pieces, it just makes your life just a little easier to develop your pieces. You can easily see where after C5, the Black Knight on B8 is going to come to C6.
Yes.
And you get your pieces out quite nice and easy. Yeah. Of course, it's the cost, though, of losing the bishop pair. And is that going to cost for him? So, like for example,
and Andrew's an interesting player, isn't he? Because he's been doing very well throughout this championships, and it sort of seems to me he has a very, I don't know, like what would you call it, a sort of sensible, practical style of play. And he doesn't take crazy risks. He's kind of just.
I've played him once actually in the 4NCL, and I think it was a 13-move draw or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't. I'm obviously undergraded in comparison to him, and he was higher than 23, 29 when I played him. Yeah. And I was white, and I got a space advantage, and it didn't look like I was winning or anything, and the draw offer was made and accepted. But it did seem like quite a sensible, practical kind of decision is when you overrate somebody, you think, oh, maybe you should be playing on to win. But I think he was very happy to take the draw. So
yeah.
It's quite a practical player, and
I think so. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how. Do you have any tips for who do you think is going to actually win the tournament? I mean, it's only on. I suppose by the end of today, we're kind of almost there. It's only 2 rounds left, and 5 people equal first at the moment.
Yeah, and Joseph McPhillips is back there on 4.5. He's got an uphill task today to kind of catch up. If, say, there's draws on the top 2 boards, then he would have to beat Nick Pert with black to join him.
Yeah,
which is possible, but we, on the outset, we'd say would be unlikely. So you really probably looking from these top 5 to see who would go through, and it's a case of who can push through for a win. And I know when Mark Hebden played against Marcus Harvey at Wood Green and with these same colours.
How did that go? Yeah.
Well, it was a draw.
Yeah.
But Mark was really pressing. And I'm pretty sure you missed some ways of trying to win a bit harder, shall we say?
Yeah.
But I'll try and bring up that game as well, just so I can see exactly what happened.
All right, so we've got the first few. We've just got 6 moves here from Mark and Marcus. Now, this is going to be a key game, because these 2 are both extremely dangerous players, and so if one of them wins here, they'll have a very good chance going into tomorrow. So Mark's done his usual d4. Knight f6, and he's playing with knight f3. So he sometimes plays with knight f3, and sometimes he plays with knight c3. Does Hebs?
Yeah, I think the knight c3 is usually more of a tricky, trappy kind of line, isn't it?
Line, yeah.
Unconventional stuff, but I mean, it looks normal. So it looks like it almost went into like a Frenchy type position, but
So this is kind of. Okay, bishop g5, he often does. d5, okay, c4. Yeah.
c4 is, I'm not sure, is that normal there, c4? I'm just trying to think if he's transposed here into a Queen's Gambit.
He has, and he actually spent 6 minutes on that move as well.
Yeah.
So it might have been another at the board decision, I think.
Yeah, it looks like it. I mean, he spent 3 minutes over bishop g5, which is unusual. Whether
he wasn't expecting e6. Is that what Marcus always does? I don't remember.
Well, Marcus plays the French, so usually against e4, he usually goes e6. Although, to be honest, he probably plays a few other openings as well. But I'm just thinking if there's kind of like a mini game that we haven't seen.
Yes, I think so.
This whole psychology going on.
Yes.
Which opening variation are you going to play? Which opening variation have you prepared for? And then how can I get them into my variation and not their variation?
I think that is going. I think exactly that is going on here. Yeah.
They're trying to work that out. Is hours and hours of work, because they would have spent at least 2 hours, 1 to 2 hours preparing at least. Okay, would have been the morning round, but maybe more on the longer clay game. But c4 is a surprise for me, and because I didn't think that, I thought Hebs was keeping it simple.
So maybe Marcus has won the mini psychological game here, because Hebs is taking more time as well and playing unusual moves.
But I mean, they're both players. You'd expect this game to go really fast, because both players play really quickly, or capable of playing very quickly. And for Hebs to slow down and move 3 and 4 and 5 as well, is quite surprising. There's definitely some mini games going on here that we don't notice. Or don't know about.
Don't know the story.
Yeah. So being made. So it's like a Queen's Gambit accepted here, but. And Hebs takes pawn them back this way, so he does the check and then comes across and takes with the queen. Yeah, which is why the Queen's Gambit isn't really a gambit, because you can always claim the pawn back this way, which isn't the normal way of claiming the pawn back, but obviously it is an option for you to do. And then c5 is obviously quite normal. I think we just had a move played a few seconds ago as well.
Yes, and so Hebs took it off. And queen c8. So it already looks a bit unusual to me. Even this early in the opening, and I guess Hebs will have to quickly get this because the queen side's opening up so much. I think Hebs would want to get out his king side bishop and just get castled pretty quick.
One thing I've noticed about Marcus's games is that he does seem to like having the queens off pretty quickly and then playing about 100 moves with just the minor pieces and rooks. I don't know if you've noticed that as well.
Okay, a bit like Keith Arkle also likes to get their queens.
Yeah, well, didn't Marcus beat Keith Arkle in a game where the queens came off?
Did he now? So that's
yeah.
So Marcus is the new Keith Arkle.
Well, maybe he's modelling himself on Keith. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a great little message from Sam the Man on the chat.
Hi, Sam the Man.
He's using time to pretend to be out of prep, but actually in prep. And yes, this does happen.
Yes.
Deliberately go slowing down and trying to make yourself look confused at the board.
It's all part of the mind games that go on at this level of chess. Gosh.
People think there's no psychology in chess. There's a lot of psychology.
Oh, there's psychology, believe me, yeah. So yes, but I like this then, queen c8 to swap queens, and presumably Mark will be well aware that Marcus does like to swap the queens. And
well, I mean, Mark's perfectly fine at playing, obviously queenless middle game.
He's good at his endgame too, isn't he? Yes.
Yeah, he's good at that. But I tend to see Mark more at weekend tournaments where he's got queens on and he just creates an attack out of nothing and then just wins the game with a checkmate. And that's how I see a lot of Mark's games going. Very tactical, very, very strong aggressive. Not that he's weak in the end game, but maybe Marcus.
But he does have his systems worked out, doesn't he? And he gets positions he kind of knows and likes and knows the tricks. Yeah. And
I guess the only thing in this position, I mean, that c5 pawn, it looks like it's gone anyway. So I don't think b4 is ever going to be an idea. But, Marcus has got a decision. Is he going to take the knight on f6 and just ruin the pawn structure? But it would also give up the bishop pair in quite an open position. So that's the only drawback of queen c8. You can't take back on f6 with a queen now.
It's true. Yes, I don't think I would take that knight right now with the bishop. Just because I haven't got my pieces out yet. But if the queens come off, you could well think about it.
I think there is a line in the Queen's Gambit accepted where if the white queen was on d1, the black queen was on d8.
Yeah.
And it's like c5 gets played, white takes on c5, and then the queens get swapped off along the d file. I think Carlsen's played that line a few times as white and got a big advantage against the Queen's Gambit accepted in that variation. But most of the games do end up in draws. But there is still a lot of play left. Just because the queens come off, it doesn't mean that it's heading to a draw. This is going to be a fighting middle game. And of course, he doesn't have to take on c5 with the queen, does he? He could take with the bishop.
He could take with the bishop as well. And then set up kind of bishop f2 tricks. And
well, I mean, I think e3 is going to get played, so the queen will be protected. So. But yes, you could look at that. But I would bet my bottom dollar that the queen takes c5 is the way that Marcus wants to recapture.
Okay. Here. Well, Hebs has come back with knight bd2, so he's developed this knight, and now Marcus is going to choose which way to recapture. So you're going for queen takes c5.
Yeah.
All right. I've got to put my money on bishop takes c5.
Okay. Just going back to the board one game between Ledger and Gormley, the game that I'm referencing between Caruana and Wozdazek, that actually had e5 in when bishop g4 was played.
Okay,
so it's a slightly different move order on 6 there. So he went e5 first and then bishop g4. I can see obviously e5 has been played since, but it's just a little bit different. But what we expected to happen happens. Bishop takes f3.
Yes, we've had this exchange on f3 actually, and Gorma's followed up with f5. So it's a very traditional King's Indian move, and he's putting his pawns forward on the king side. And I wonder even actually if he'll just carry on. If Ledger does not do anything, that whether Gorma will just actually carry on with f4. The only thing is in this particular line is the attack's a little bit harder for black to actually organize because you don't have the light square bishop anymore, which is often a key piece for that attack.
Yeah, it's like you really want to play f4 as black, but actually it blocks in your own bishop on g7 as well, and then you haven't got control over the g4 square to get a real punchy g5.
Yeah, it's hard to get this g5 g4 in. Yeah. You can do it. You can do like knight f6 and queen e8, I think, and still do it. But I think it's easier for white to prevent. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you just might say he's just got a closed position and he's got a knight rather than a bishop, so maybe he's happy because of that and just keep the pawn on f5.
We've got a comment from Gary Lane.
Yeah.
So Gary Lane is asking, what is the age difference? I'm back on board 2. I'm going to switch back for just a second. Back on board 2. What is the age difference between the players Hebs and Marcus? So Hebs, well, I've got my, I've actually got, because it's so useful for knowing people's ages. Hebs, I'll tell you, Hebden was born in 1958. Right, how's your maths, Jonathan?
Well, I used to be a maths teacher, so if I get it wrong, then...
Right, pressure on, man. Marcus was born in 1996.
Oh, I've got to come backwards.
50, so 60, 70, 80, 90.
If you add 40 onto 58, you get to 98. So then take 2 off.
Take 2 off. 38 years age difference. Whoa.
We're going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, and as well, you know, is tiredness coming into play? And, you know, we're at the back end of the tournament here, and maybe there might be some tiredness, but Mark's a professional. And, you know, I know at the Wood Green tournament, he was saying we were playing 2 rounds a day, and he didn't lose a game in that tournament. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. He might claim afterwards. You might, if you speak to him afterwards, he'll say, "Oh yeah, I was really tired. It's such a long tournament." I'm not buying it at all. He loves it. He absolutely loves the tournament. He loves playing.
Tell you what, you are absolutely right though about Marcus's plan. He did take on c5 with the queen and recapture with the bishop. So the queens are off. We've got an endgame which suits both players. I know that doesn't make any sense, does it? But it suits both players in this game.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of play here, and I love these positions as well. This is this kind of thing that I'd go for. Get the queens off, and let's maneuver around with the minor pieces. It really shows quite a lot of skill on your piece placement, and it's even more so when the queens are off, because you can't have your queen bail you out of trouble with a perpetual check. So I'll be interested to see how this game develops. Maybe in about 10 moves time, I think it's going to get really quite lively. We might see maybe a3, b4, a6, b5, some sort of pawn push somewhere. So see where somebody gains the space on that.
All right, let's have a look at the next one, which is Nick Pert against Joe Mcphillips. Ooh, okay.
Interesting dynamic, isn't it? Because Joe needs to really win, doesn't he?
Joe needs to, yes. So Joe's half a point behind, and actually there's a little group of players half a point behind. I'm going to just find out who those are.
No, he's the only one.
No,
you've got Svetlana and Keith on 4.
And Svetlana and Keith on 4. Okay, so there's 5 players in the lead on 5, and then just Joe on 4.5. Svetlana and Keith, and also Hamish Olsen on 4. And so yes, so Joe's really, because if Joe draws this, there's going to be other players ahead of him going into the final round, and there could even be like a point clear of him.
Yeah.
And so I think for him to, you know, to actually win the championship, he's going to really want to win this game today. Although, of course, as we said, it's a big ask because he's up against Grandmaster Nick Pert and he's got the black pieces.
Well, I mean, you know, you might be thinking he's up against a Grandmaster who's more than 100 points higher rated than him. He's also got the black pieces. Would he be happy with a draw? I say people this good at chess, when they get to the IM level, they don't get to that level because they take draws when the championship is potentially leaving their grasp. I'd be very surprised if he agrees any type of draw here or tries to go for it. He's going to try and win for sure. Go on. Yeah, what happened in this game? How did it start?
It's actually so far following the Hebs and Marcus Harvey, but here Nick Pert plays c4 straight away. d5, knight c3, c5. Ooh. So Joe didn't go into the you know, there's one now which Pert wrote the book recently?
Vienna?
No. The black defense. I've now lost all my names of defenses.
Cambridge Springs?
No.
What movie are you thinking instead?
It'll come back. Anyway, here we go. So we are getting.
It's a semi-Tarash, isn't it? So
yeah,
pretty sure e4 was also a move there, but e3 is a bit more.
So e4, I guess. So black takes on c3 there, I think.
Yeah.
takes.
I think that's been pretty well played at quite the high level as well in Super Grandmaster circles.
Yeah.
And there's like long variations where you have to really know your stuff as black, otherwise you might get checkmated. I think white doesn't even take back on d4 in some lines. I'm trying to remember, but e3 is a little bit more. Okay. I think what Nick wants is he just wants a game of chess.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right, and just
because it could be some prep by Joe. He might know this really well. But this is really interesting here. What happens here? Queen c7, and then attacking the pawn on c3. And I love this kind of stuff. He's basically saying, defend your pawn on c3.
Yeah.
And Nick just said, no.
I'm not doing it.
Not doing it. Really defend it. Yeah, you want that pawn, you can take it. And
if you're hard enough. Yeah.
If you're brave. I dare you. And so he does. Well, I did.
Oh, this is exciting chess. Okay, so Joe has risen to the challenge, taken that pawn on c3. He had a good long think first, by the way. He thought for 7 minutes before taking this pawn. So we're going to see if this is a poison pawn, which Nick hopes it is, or if Joe can get away with it.
Yeah, and obviously lots of development for white here. You can see the light square bishop's going to come out to numerous squares. I can't see an attack in the making right this second.
No, because it's a pawn, and white's got this isolated d pawn, and so white is going to really, need to make the attack count.
It's funny because there's also the c8 bishop has not got an easy route to activity as well.
It's true.
So
yeah,
maybe b6 bishop b7 looks like the most normal route, but it takes a lot of time. Do that.
I suppose you could go also alternatively bishop d7 and c6, but then you've got like the knight. That knight could come in to e5, and that would always hit the bishop. So
yeah, I mean it's going to be a slow burn, this one, isn't it? It's not going to be sack mate. I expect d5 to be the break at some point.
Yeah.
But maybe white's just going to castle and then look to attack after that. Play rook e1.
I wonder, because if the black king castles kingside, you really do have, like that bishop on d3 does line up. You've got all these sort of classical formation with the bishop on d3, so you could sack on h7 and knight g5 and queen h5, and that sort of stuff can be quick because black does not have the knight on f6, which normally stops those kind of things working. So if black goes kingside, you could see a quick attack from white. If black goes queenside, well, the c file's already open, so that's dangerous. So if black stays in the center, again, the center's pretty open for that sort of thing. So black does have some kind of, it's not going to be easy to get that king safe quickly.
Yeah, and maybe Nick is also, we talked about Joe needing to win just to stay in the hunt. Maybe Nick's also thinking the same kind of thing as well. He needs to win. Otherwise, there's two other games higher up than on boards 1 and board 2. If any one of those produces a victor, then he doesn't win. Then he's going to be at least half a point behind. So maybe Nick is thinking the same thing. But there's also a rook c1 idea here with d5 and queen e2 check, knight e5. Maybe I'm talking nonsense, but there's so much going on here, which is, I think it just needs a few more moves just for white to get castled. And then we need to see really how black develops. Because black's got so many choices here. Like you said, bishop d7, bishop c6, b6, bishop b7, how to get that bishop out. But really, the first things first is, can we go bishop e7 or bishop d6? And maybe even instead of knight c6, maybe knight d7, knight to f6 to try and plug up that king side.
True, actually, and just replace that knight that's...
It takes 2 moves, though, and it's just all time that black doesn't have. And all the meantime, white's major pieces are going to be getting into the game. And it's very, very scary to play like that.
Very interesting.
You have to be...
for life, this tournament is taking place over the board. So it's being played in Hull at the moment. And so there was a junior tournament in Milton Keynes, and the Open and the Seniors is in Hull. Okay, so this one, so very lively game. We'll come back to this in a second. Let's see the next one. So the next one is also a very interesting game. Svetlana Susikova against Keith Arkle. And we've seen both these players are not scared of having long games. And so Svetlana's an absolutely excellent defender. which we've seen like the first 2 rounds of this tournament. And she had positions you really wouldn't like to get into, and she managed to save
one fight I tend to lose. So yeah, I saw that she's been playing very well, hasn't she?
She really has. She really has. And Keith, very popular player. He a bit like Marcus actually likes to swap off into the end game, and he can play forever in an end game. He especially rook and pawn endings he really likes.
Yeah, I think it's more Marcus is like Keith rather than the other way around.
Yeah. He's the next generation who've modelled themselves on Keith.
Yeah, maybe. although didn't Alpha Zero not disprove, but not like the minority attack that Keith likes?
Alpha Zero played it completely differently from Keith.
I was thinking that isn't Alpha Zero and Keith just a clash of the a paradox that exists in the universe?
Exactly. Yeah, you can go one way or the other.
Does Keith normally do this? Because this is an unusual line for black.
A good question. Does he usually?
It just the development of Bishop G4. It just kind of puts a question to white. And if you're maybe it's something he might do against lower graded players. I don't know. But some people are a bit scared there of playing G3 because Bishop takes knight, pawn takes. Is that good or not?
And actually, that's exactly what Keith has done. So he has already swapped off this bishop, and played c6. So So this is going to be an interesting game as well, strategic game that the 2 bishops that Svetlana has against Keith's better pawn structure.
It's all about he's trying to get his pawns on light squares. He wants to play e6 and d5, maybe in the other order. Just because he's got rid of his light square bishop, so he's going to stick all his pawns on light squares.
Exactly. Straight away, he plays d5. Okay. Svetlana Fianchetto's her other bishop. Well, no, maybe she doesn't. She plays b3 anyway, defending her pawn.
Okay.
And actually, she comes out this way.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of bishop e3.
Yeah, I did think she was going to go on to b2. Yeah, because you could imagine black's bishop becoming good down that diagonal, couldn't you?
Well, I don't know. It almost feels like a bit of a defensive move. So for example, before she played bishop e3, maybe something was running through her mind that black's going to take on c4, move the knight on f6 out of the way, and the d4 pawn would be hanging.
Yeah.
And that's and you can maybe see in the move times as well that Keith is playing pretty fast on average. And it's really great having these move times.
Yes,
you look at Svetlana from move 3 after that bishop g4 move. It took 5 minutes before playing g3. Of course, she's got to recapture, so that was an easy one on move 5. But then it's time being spent every single move here. Maybe she just needed to maybe spend 10, 15 minutes and get a real good grasp of the position. Because moves like b3, defending c4, it's like, is that necessary?
Yeah.
Do you need to defend that pawn? Or could you do something more active and get your pieces out quicker? Bishop e3 as well, it just feels a bit defensive to me. And solid, maybe you've said this is what Svetlana does. She's really good at defending. But there might have been an opportunity instead of b3 and bishop e3 moves to maybe castle straight away, and then you've got 2 moves to do something to put your opponent under pressure and start to attack them. So I don't know, queen b3 attacking b7 would be a target.
Looking to I just suddenly thought maybe she's looking to exchange off those dark squared bishops.
Oh, bring the queen forward and bishop h6.
Yeah, but then I think, well, actually, she probably maybe that doesn't make so much sense because she's the one with the bishop pair. So
yeah, you usually want to keep one up, keep them on. But I mean, it's not a bad plan, so to speak. I'm pretty sure if I remember when I looked at this line, White's meant to go for kind of like an f4, g4, h4, just kind of charge, even though
so meant to go crazy.
Yeah, well, it's not her thing. It's just slow and slowly crushing your opponent, and they can't do too much. But I think a good opening truce by Keith here. I think that's and you can tell in the move times it's had the desired effect. All those minutes are adding up, and as soon as you start getting under an hour and you start to see it click, the clock tick down, it adds more pressure psychologically, and you know that your opponent's not familiar with the position. And this is what the top players do to you, I'm afraid.
Keith will be enjoying it, I guess.
Opening decision there, very, very clever.
Hi, Max Langerman. Okay, castle, knight c3, e6, queen d2. Yep, and she's lining up, and knight bd7. And that's what
I'm just not sure what bishop h6 accomplishes.
No, yeah. Yeah.
I want to see it followed up with a h4, h5, knight g5, with a rook on h1 included in there. Just don't think it's working.
Yeah.
Because now she kind of really wants to, that the pawn on f3 is guarding that e4 square as well, and also g4 too. So she doesn't really want to move it. So how's white going to activate that light squared bishop? It looks very blocked in at the moment. So maybe rook fc1 and then bringing it back to f1 and out on that diagonal might be an idea. But you look how fast Kiefer's playing. Very easy.
Oh, he is straight away. Yeah.
Very easy moves. Swap onto light square bishop. Put all your pawns on light squares. Do simple developing moves, and you get a good position. So, and this was done right on move 4. Well, move 3 was it? Bishop g4. Move 3. Bishop
That's
g4.
what we did. Yeah.
That's how crazy it is.
Yeah.
No, I think the last round's tomorrow, isn't it, Natasha?
Last round's tomorrow. Yeah. So 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. tomorrow. Or I suppose it can take a little bit more than that, but 10 a.m. Yeah, starting 10 a.m.
Do you know why, Natasha, that they didn't keep it at 2:30 for the last 2 rounds? Or is it because that tomorrow they've got to do a playoff if there's a joint?
It's quite normal for the last round to be earlier, isn't it, on a Sunday?
Yeah.
So that's normal. It's like sometimes you'd have the Saturday round still at the normal time and the Sunday round as the earlier one. But I don't know the reason there, or whether they just everybody wanted to do something Saturday afternoon.
Maybe.
Have a nice time. Yeah.
Maybe it's get people used to the morning round by one extra round before doing it.
Yeah. Oh, yes, that's a good point though about playoffs. I actually don't. Yeah, it is traditional, isn't it, in the British Championship if it is tied to have a playoff. Oh, Wise Monsters knows the answer to this. There was a wedding. So I guess this afternoon then there's a wedding. And do you mean at the venue, Wise Masters, or that some of the participants or organisers were going to it? Yeah. Anyway, okay, so a wedding in the afternoon, so they thought easiest to.
Okay, well, makes sense.
Sunday morning, yes, makes sense.
Why prepare for the last round of the British when you can go to a wedding?
Everyone's saying yeah.
Yeah, I think everybody's choosing a wedding.
I don't know about you, Jonathan, but when any of these things that it sounds like some big party and everyone just relaxing and everybody these days would think that sounds really nice.
I mean, for me, I do like to do preparation because it makes me feel more confident in my games, and it is a necessity. But there are quite a lot of people out there who would playing chess 960, for example, and where you don't have to prepare at all. It does sometimes make it a lot nicer. I think I was reading, was it Brandon Clark's interview in the chess magazine, saying that he just likes it if you just know the pairings a minute before the round, so that there's no preparation at all.
Well, I must admit, I like that. Yeah. Just take out the prep and just play is sort of quite nice. Yeah, actually, that's interesting idea, isn't it? You couldn't you, as an organizer, you could make that your kind of thing, so you don't know the pairings way in advance, and just have the tournament. Just that we will only publish the pairings 1 minute before. So
the problem is that you'll have some wise person who knows how the pairings works.
And works it all out in advance. Of course they will. Yeah. Of course they will. You're absolutely
right. I remember as a
kid,
when you used to have the cards that went into the boards.
Yeah.
I used to try and work out who I was playing next. Not that I was doing any preparation when I was a kid, but
No, but it was worse than that, wasn't it? Because then if it wasn't as expected, it was always a junior tournament, and then one of the parents would complain that their son was playing
in adult tournaments as well.
Strong or
3 blacks in a row. What you doing?
Oh goodness me!
And the cards would be.
And then it had to be repaired.
Oh, it'd be crossed out. Yeah, it'd be. But now they can't let you with a computer, can they? So.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so someone would get a copy of the computer program, just run it all through and know the pairings. Yeah,
the organisers. That was a wedding. It was a wedding for one of the organisers, Natasha.
Lovely.
I'm sure I remember reading about that, but
very nice. Okay.
Right, rook AB1, interesting. Just played B3 a few moves ago, and now playing rook AB1. So maybe she's expecting d takes c4 here, or has she started to think maybe I can do something with my c pawn and then play b4, b5?
You know what, though? Keith doesn't normally take that way. You know, like when he takes, he normally takes, he'd do d takes e4 every time.
He wouldn't give up
he prefers having more pawns on the king side than his opponent. So I'm not sure that he will go d takes c4.
I don't think he will. I don't see any reason why Black would give up their centre pawn, the one that's furthest forward, gaining the most space for White's pawn on c4. So maybe I think more. I don't think Svetlana's expecting him to take. I think maybe she's thinking that she's either going to take on d5 or play c5 herself, and then go b4, b5.
That makes more sense. Yeah. No, that I can see. Yeah,
it does feel like she maybe lost a few tempo there in trying to do this plan. Somewhere along the line. B3 and bishop b3, the ones that I'm highlighting. But I understand it's a new opening for her, I think, judging by the time limits. Be interesting to actually speak to her afterwards, actually. And also key for that is preparation for this game. It's fascinating, these kind of mini little battles that you have at the start. People are thinking, it's 4 moves in, why are you taking 10 minutes over your move? I go, this is why, because it can be...
Because I do this and they like to do this, and then then they'll do this, and I don't like that.
I hope it doesn't happen, but Svetlana could very easily lose this game very quickly just by Keith playing some natural moves, and I don't want that to happen at all. But it's so easily done after just moves 4 moves.
The other thing that Keith used to do was... or before people knew about it, was he would just he'd go into the end game, but you'd always think you were drawing against him because like it looked like a very even position, but actually he'd have a slight edge and he'd be very good at that kind of position. And so it would never be much, but he'd just sort of get into these end games that were sort of supposedly about equal, but then he'd just win and win and win and win and win.
Yeah, he's horrible like that, isn't he? Let's be honest. It's and he plays to his strengths, and who can blame him? No, why wouldn't you? If you're good at something, just keep doing it.
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense, really. Right, who's next? What else have we got?
Louise Head against Hamish Olsen.
What has happened here?
Let's see.
Two very exciting players by the looks of things.
Yes. Actually, Louise had a bit of a humdinger the other day with a sort of opposite side castling game.
Oh, really?
Very exciting game. The chat was telling us it was called the Warwick variation of the King's Indian, because she used to be the president of Warwick University chess, and they all played the same opening.
I think I played through the game, actually.
Nice.
Yeah, I remember. Didn't she? It was like bishop e2, bishop e3, and then I think she went g4, g5, and h4 against the King's Indian. Yeah, okay, yeah. No, that was very exciting, crazy game. Okay, we got Queen's Gambit again. This is my type of stuff. This is Natasha. Okay. Anything with e4 in and that's not a French, and I don't really know anything really. So, but I used to play this. I still do play this line.
We haven't had many e4s today, have we?
No.
More Queen's Pawn openings today.
Yeah, but yeah.
Whereas the other day we had. There was one of the days near the start where we had nearly everyone was e4 and French defences and that kind of thing.
Oh, that's even better. I like this move on move 6 by White, Queen c2. This is the one coming. This is I used to play this when I was like 11, and the whole idea is if somebody plays h6 on your bishop, you can respond with h4, and I used to love it that I didn't have to move my bishop.
Oh, sacrificial.
Yeah, and it worked for a few years, to be honest. People playing in the minor and when I was up and coming, and after h6, h4, and it's great. I don't have to move my bishop, and I've got an attack ready made as well. Take that. So she's playing really aggressively here, Louise.
But I tell you what, this is now turning into something a bit like a Keith Arkle, where he does do this CD, ED, and so she's got this Carlsbad pawn structure now.
Yeah.
And if she wants to later, she can choose whether she wants to do a Alpha Zero type approach and attack, or a Keith Arkle type approach and push the B pawn.
The thing is, do you find that many people have taken the AlphaZero approach compared to the minority attack, or?
Well, I think people still do use their minority attacks, yeah, but definitely people are more open to pushing their H pawns early.
Yeah, and I should imagine there might be more people playing black here who are more willing to play this line as well and not be fearful of the minority attack.
Yes. Yeah.
Although I personally think it's very easy to play, so why do you not?
Well, it's sort of nice, isn't it? Well, I mean, like how Keith does it, and you've just got your. You kind of know what moves exactly you want to do, swap the right pieces off, push the pawns, create a weakness, and at work, if black's lucky, they can get it so it's a draw.
I like what Louise has done here, delaying the development of the G1 knights. Okay, we're still way in theory here. Obviously, both players know what they're doing at this point, but the knight could have gone to E2, perhaps. That's a great way of playing for some of the viewers watching that aren't too familiar with the opening nuances, shall we say, because that would involve more of a plan of playing pawn to F3 and pawn to E4. But knight F3, perfectly still good as well. Yeah. And this is just pretty standard here, but it looks like it's still going very quickly, if you ask me.
Yeah, they're both playing very quick. They're in stuff they know. Okay, so as she's already castled, she didn't do your plan of H4 here. She did just drop a bishop.
She could have castled queenside, you see. She could.
Yeah, like the other day.
Yeah.
One for a crazy one.
Okay, so black does the usual exchanges.
Yeah.
This is all standard stuff here, and then
and then we get this. So B4 coming in. All right, is that a sacrifice?
She wins back E4 pawn, or the D5 pawn, shall we say?
Yeah, and she probably prefers the central pawn to the wing pawn anyway. Yeah,
to be honest, it's a really nice way of getting B4 in quickly without having to play Rook B1 first. So that's for people that are watching that maybe not quite as clued up, this is what good players do. Try and save time as much as possible. If you don't have to play Rook B1 first, and you can play B4 and get away with it, do it.
Followed up actually, A6, and she's just followed up directly with A4, so she's still just leaving that pawn again, just on the ground. She'll get back the central pawn for it. So knight F6, and then she gets B5 in as well.
Look how much time she spent on that move.
Oh, a long time actually. Yes, yeah.
So what was she thinking about there? I mean, or maybe was it because it's quite.
Sometimes they meet this B5. Sometimes they meet it with C5, and then things can get very sharp.
It looks very sharp anyway, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, because she does want to play B5, but maybe she was thinking about doing something like knight E5 instead, because when black's knight came from D7 to F6, it freed up the E5 square, but B5 seems a very natural move to me to play, but obviously it's a lot of calculation here, and there's so many.
Oh, hang on. There was this other idea that black could also think about, which is I don't know about here because the D pawn goes weak, but they sometimes do takes on B5 with the C pawn, takes, and then A5 and get a nice passed A pawn.
Yeah, that looks. And support it with B6 as well.
Maybe, or else. I mean, you can't do it straight away, right? You maybe support with B6 after, or maybe you don't. But you what you do is when you get the chance is keep on pushing that A pawn down the board, and if you can get it to like A3, and then you'd probably want to swap off that knight on C3 first, right?
Yeah, I was going to say,
do it this way. You take on C3.
Knight A4 was going to be a bit of a problem for you, but yeah.
So you take off. So if you were doing this line, so you'd maybe take on C3, take on B5 with the C pawn, takes, and then A5. And actually you're then already, because the queen's already moved, you're already threatening to go A4.
The problem is the queen's on C3.
And you might be able to get that pawn quite far down. And if you do, you then you can be tying white up.
White can just take on A5 though, when you play it, because the queen's on C3.
So it might not work.
It's a nice idea.
You'd probably have to do it in the move order.
Well,
if
if
you're
you've got anything after, so CB, AB, A5,
yeah,
knight A4 looks like a very obvious move to play.
knight A4, yeah. So maybe you can't do it here, but that it's just another thing you sometimes do.
But you're right. C5 is the move that not White fears here, but it's like going crazy. Yeah. What White wants Black to do here is just accept that we're going to take on C6 and then just double up rooks or double up.
Yeah. That's what White wants.
Please just sit still and do nothing. That's all we want Black to do here. But unfortunately, Black's not going to do that, are they?
They're not.
Apparently, they want to win the game. It's rude. So he takes one.
Takes.
Okay.
Takes. And
what you
then
said.
Hamish played. Yeah, we have to remember here, actually, Hamish's FIDE master has also been having playing some very good games. C5.
How old is Hamish, by the way?
How old is he? I did look that up the other
day.
Is
he a youngster? Well,
no, junior.
25 is what I want to say.
Yeah. He was. Person is born in 1994. So yeah, mid-20s.
Okay, good. So we've got two really quite, up-and-coming young players going to be around the circuit for the next very long time, fighting it off against each other here. And C5, the battle lines are drawn. Yeah. There's going to be a whole mess in the centre. Deal with it.
Yeah. Okay, and so Louise takes and takes. Okay, so now Black has a isolated pawn on D5, and White could block that with a knight in on D4 at some point. White probably would want to keep this bishop, I would think, and actually Louise has chosen to. Yes, so she's.
It's interesting she went back to E2, and I've just taken a sneaky look at bishop F5 there just to see if there was a way, because with the isolated queen's pawn at D5, you kind of want to swap pieces, don't you?
Yeah. That's a good point, actually. Yeah, if you put it on bishop F5, swap it off, and then you can block on D4, and it's harder for Black to just keep that pawn defended.
But she's obviously made the decision that she wants to keep that pair of bishops on, and when she plays knight D4, she can then play bishop F3 to attack the pawn, and therefore, because it's on a light square, keeping the light square bishops on is a good idea. I guess there's possibly two trains of thought there, which is an interesting decision that she's made. I mean, strategically, you've got to say that White's better here, but I think practically, Black's pieces are looking very active.
Yeah. So could there be danger on the king side?
I think there's danger everywhere. That's the thing. Not just the king. I think we're going to see the E4 square being occupied at some point. The light square bishop on C8 is going to even G6 here looks like a really strange move to play. But if it just gets bishop F5 in,
can support bishop F5, yes. So actually, Black's got a lot of dynamic chances here.
Yeah, and okay, the D5 pawn, yes, it is weak, but maybe Black can try and attack B5 in some way. It's I'd be if I was Louise though in this position, I'd be pretty happy.
Yeah.
Because she's up against somebody who's nearly 200 points higher rated than her, obviously having a good tournament as well. And I don't think she's got any fear here at all. I think she's got a very simple plan that she's going to enact. She's going to put knight on D4, bishop F3, attack the pawns on D5, maybe B7 if the bishop leaves it. So it's you can play a lot of White moves very quickly here without actually doing much wrong. And it's really on Black. The pressure's on Black to do something, because if you don't do something, you could lose. Which is interesting to see how it goes forward.
Yes. Let's see. Okay, we've got let's see, Peter Finn against Robert Starley. So Robert yesterday had his first ever win over the board against at slow play against an international master.
Oh wow!
So he had a very nice day and a nice game yesterday.
And this game has raced along, hasn't it, as well?
Yeah, they've played nearly 20 moves already.
I mean, it looks like you can see the computer bar on the left that White's completely winning here, apparently. And
yes, I should maybe actually turn that off. Let me just.
Yeah, it might be
because it's harder to
Yeah, it's one of those where I don't like.
You get influenced by it, don't you, without even kind of realizing. Yeah. Okay, I've switched it off for us. But then if we're wrong, that's too bad.
Okay, so we get the.
Okay, we've got an e4 opening here. Okay, so e4, e5, bishop c4. So bishop's game at knight c6 here and bishop c5.
Okay, so just transposing back to the main lines then, isn't it?
Yeah. c3, knight f6, aiming to just come and take this e-pawn. d3, d6.
Yeah, d3 is a slower way of playing, isn't it? And
yeah, just a quiet way of playing. And white will eventually maybe play d4, but doesn't need to do it all in one go and can get pieces out first.
There's quite a lot of tricky, trappy stuff, I believe, around this area here, that if you castle too soon, as white or black, then there might be some sort of pawn storm on the king's side. So
yeah,
it's you have to really know your stuff at the highest level around here, otherwise.
Yeah, and sometimes white does a maneuver. So before casting, sometimes does a knight d2, knight f1. I think. Oh no, he's doing it after casting this game, but he's doing a d2 type setup.
Okay, so how does this develop from here then?
So knight d2, a6, just making sure that bishop has space, and maybe looking at a b5 as well.
Yeah.
Castles, and drops the bishop back. Bishop back, and castles. So both sides safely castled.
Not having any nonsense kingside pawn storms at this rate then.
I don't think, not yet. Here, and we're just going to maneuver around. So this knight's coming around and going to have a look to go towards f5. Bishop e6, bishop e3, queen d7, and these dark square bishops have come off.
See, it's interesting there how that black rook on a8's been brought forward to a7. It just really doesn't want to be there on a7. Maybe you should have taken on e3, even though it risks bringing the pawn from f2 into e3. And so that rook on a7, and I'm thinking, not at this stage, but in the future, there could be some tactics where, like, the queen comes to e3 to attack the rook on a7. I know it's defended by the knight on c6 at the moment, but things might change. It's just an uncomfortable piece placement, and you don't really want to take time bringing the rook back.
Yeah,
exactly. He does.
To get it active, you're going to have to waste a move again. I mean, I suppose black could try the other way and just try and go a5 as well. But what I expect is that white would meet that with a4 whenever it came in,
well, it's whether black playing a4 would actually be a good thing or not, because white could take it, but also you could just retreat and then play a3 and then just attack it for the rest of the game, maybe. So I think he made a good decision a couple of moves time just to accept that the rook is badly placed and he brings it back. So
just take it back. Yeah.
But here he goes d5 first. Here.
Yes.
So why not play rook a8 first?
Excuse me.
Or I think he's really worried because I think he was worried of the light squared bishops getting exchanged off there and then knight f5 coming in.
Oh, yeah.
And we all know what happens when a knight reaches f5.
This knight on f5 is brutal. Queen e2.
Okay.
And he brings this rook back. Yeah. And this is probably just very wise, so that it can just get active. Rooks are connected now.
It's amazing how simple white's plan is, though, isn't it?
Yeah. So Peter's just he's really trying to get his knights in on f5 now.
But I'm pretty sure when I was playing through Bobby Fischer's 60 best games, this is pretty much all Bobby did, but more in Rye Lopez structures. He just used to play this knight h4 idea, and now I can see in the move time Queen f3 is coming. It's just such a simple idea and plan, but so effective and so difficult to meet.
So Robert's gone g6 to stop the knight coming in, which I think is sensible. It does, although it does weaken the king side, so that h6 and f6. So then Peter then puts the queen already to f3 to attack that knight on f6.
So does king g7 not look like a nicer move here? He plays knight to
h7. King g7 looks like the thing, doesn't it?
But maybe there's, well, I can't see knight f5 check sacrifice working at all. Yeah, king g7 seems to me like the principled move here, because it also guards h6 as well. And it's like coming back to that thing I was pointing out, that rook on a7 being a bit weirdly placed. If, say, for example, the knight wasn't on c6, then queen e3 would both attack a7 and h6 at the same time.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
So it's like these things that, like, at the time don't look like there's a weakness or a tactical problem. Later on down the line, it starts to come alive, and here g6 has been played, and h6 and f6 are weak. f6 gets attacked straight away. King g7 looks like the natural move here. So Robert has, I think, maybe thinking more aggressively here.
I think he's trying to go f5, isn't he? He wants.
Well, if he wants chaos,
but that would be really loose, because then g6 pawn straight away.
I mean, he's definitely a brave guy if he wants to play f5 here. I don't know if maybe he wants to play knight g5 and maybe do his own.
Yeah, that's more sensible.
Maybe sacking on h3 or something. I don't know.
Well, yeah, no, you're right, because he even puts it in now. As an intermezzo.
So we've got a great comment here, and a kind of a comment / question by, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, Are you Vanalis? Who's saying that it's you don't want to move the king. It's an interesting point, and I didn't know that you call yourself a lowly player. I'm sure that's not the case. But yeah, you can usually use the king to defend important squares, especially around the king as well. So especially when the pawns are coming forward to g6 and h6, like in this game, just plug in those dark squares, because black doesn't have a dark squared bishop as well. So king g7 makes a lot of sense. And also, white doesn't have a dark squared bishop too, so it actually gets it off that diagonal from the bishop on b3. So just in case there's any potential checks or discovered checks later on down the line. So from a completely different point, it makes a lot of sense to play king g7. But black chose a more aggressive option. And I think maybe there was even a repetition there, Natasha, as well, with knight g5, queen f6, knight back to h7, queen back to f3, knight g5. That maybe Robert was threatening to do. Although, who's favourite here in this game? Isn't both players are...
Well, I would say these ratings aren't necessarily accurate, and I do know that Peter Finn has been playing a lot of chess during lockdown. Like, he played in the
he played in both British online
British Championships, and has been playing in a lot of league stuff as well. So I could imagine that rating being a little bit out of date for Peter Finn there. So I'm also, Robert Starley's been playing a lot online, so I think they're both, they're both in practice players, but I wouldn't say necessarily that Robert should feel like he's a favourite on paper or anything like that, just because I know Peter's been playing, like, he's got like a 2300 on online rating kind of thing. I think he's stronger than his grade there.
Yeah, I played Robert in the British Online, the most recent one, and
yes.
I mean, he made just an opening error, which meant that I could get a massive advantage. But then, after I got that advantage, he started to find some really good moves, and it's almost like he came alive. And I was just like, I thought you were really bad. You played really bad in the opening. Why can't you just lose to me?
It's an important point, isn't it? If you, even though you're getting an advantage in the game, or if you win some minor, like we're talking about these like initial battles on prep or an initial tactical skirmish, it doesn't mean your opponent is that you're going to win every single one.
No. And okay, so here he's played a nice kind of idea with knight g5, because white can't take the bishop or knight, because the knight takes f3 is check. So queen f6 is played, and then he takes on d5.
So yes, so black could repeat now. With
no, can't. No, because pawn takes knight c3, or pawn takes...
sorry, yes. Attacking black
queen.
Yes. Okay. So bishop d5 takes, and now we get... Oh, look! Now we get this.
That's not looking nice, is it? And this is why the king should have been on G7 to start with, to prevent that queen coming into F6.
Yeah. This is looking really scary, because what if? So if the pawn takes that knight,
I'm assuming that's the only move,
Yeah. Then we just recapture, I think. And so we're threatening mate on G. I could put it. Should we bring up an analysis board?
Yeah, this is. I'm not sure that black's escaping here, although it looks very deadly. There's also the E1 rook that's going to come up to E4 as well. I think this could be over.
Oh no, and I'm doing the wrong thing. What I want to do is actually open the game in analysis.
Because I think black's only move is 96 there. That looks like it could be nearly over.
Yeah, so we've got it here, and so here we can. So I think takes, because our threat. I can do arrows here. I think our threat is that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see any reason not to take, and I mean the threat is not queen G7 whether you take now or not take, isn't it? So you might as well take.
So takes. At least you've got the knight. So how would you defend? You've got knight G6 to attempt to defend.
There's nothing else, is there? I'm not missing something.
I can't see other moves. So let's say we do that to attempt to defend.
Knight E6.
Yeah, then white's got a few choices. So there's knight H6 check. There's also, you could sort of bring your rook up to E3.
Yeah.
And round to G3, which looks pretty scary. So,
in fact, I think your idea of rook E3 is actually a bit better, because rook E4 allows queen takes rook. I don't see how that's going to be stopped, because you can't block the G file with the knight because it's queen G7 mates.
You can't. So how would you block? The only other way I can think of blocking is
knight E7 is knight
back. Of course, that can be just taken. So
which is
strange as well, because that forks the king and queen. So at least white emerges the exchange up, plus the king's completely open. So this is completely
so at least it wins it. Yeah, it could be. If you have to play knight E7 here, okay. If it's not checkmate, you just take the knight on E7 and then game over. So, I mean, queen D8 is the only other kind of much sensible idea, but just rook G3 check, and I don't see checkmate.
Can't block with the knight because queen G7 mate. If you go king F8, it's queen H8, and that's mate.
Yeah.
If you go king H7,
rook G7.
Which one? Rook G7.
Yeah.
Yeah. King there, and then rook F7.
Or queen takes H6 mate.
Queen takes H6 mate, even easier.
It's the thing though, and anybody watch it. I did a lesson with some of my students about a month ago now about just get your knights to F5, or if you're black, get your knight to F4, and it just happens so often. In open positions as well. Okay, more so in closed positions in these E4, E5 lines. It's even more powerful, but it's a great place for your knight. It still controls the center, still controls 8 squares on the board. I won a game against Jonah Willow, and got my knight to F5, and it caused all sorts of problems. That was from that Wood Green tournament that I talked about.
Oh, yes.
It's the knights on F5 or F4 if you're black is just so deadly, and here he's able to actually give up a knight. He played G6 to stop it, and he actually still played knight F5 because it was still so powerful. Has this actually happened?
People, John, on this stream, a lot of people ask us about players to recommend to do online coaching. Do you do online coaching for people?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Excellent. So we can recommend you as a person to go to if anyone's looking for online coaching. Yeah. And you do in-person coaching as well?
What do you mean? You mean face-to-face?
I don't know. People just ask quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it obviously depends on, if the pandemic wasn't happening, then I do a mixture of online coaching and face-to-face coaching. I was doing some training days where I was inviting people to come to, I had a nice hotel that I was using,
nice.
and doing a whole day of coaching with adults as well as juniors.
Very nice.
Yeah, so I did it. It's kind of like an adult-only kind of session as well, and that was really well received. I enjoyed myself as well, to be honest. I used to want to be a comedian when I was younger, and realised that I just wasn't funny. So you have to put up with my cheesy jokes. But it's
yes.
it was just a good day, to be honest. Because
we can post. Have you got a website that people contact or anything? We can post.
Do you know what? I don't have a website. Because I'm actually in the process of probably buying a site and trying to create one at the moment. I have a lot of work through word of mouth, but I guess people would just contact me via my Facebook page, just John from Blackburn Chess, if people want any.
Excellent. Okay, right. Oh no, I'm pressing the wrong.
Yeah, this game looks like it's over, I'm afraid, for Robert.
It does look like it's over. Okay, let's see Ollie Stubbs against Theo Cowrie.
Now, I don't know Theo Cowrie at all.
I do a bit because he's often in this chat. Not while he's playing, obviously, but his dad sometimes is in the chat. So he's Hellraise. And Theo, actually, he was playing in, I can't remember, maybe it was the Online British, not the one just gone, but the one before that. And he came onto the stream. We interviewed him briefly after he played a very nice game. He's a junior player, very, very, very good junior player. Must be. I think he's about 11. Okay.
Wow, 11.
Yeah.
And, playing at this level, that's very strong.
Yeah.
Mind you, there's you could say that about a few of them, couldn't you? At the moment,
you could. There's a lot of talents. There's a lot of junior talents around at the moment. Actually, really nice.
I guess if they've liked playing online, then it's obviously you've got Freddie Gordon in this tournament as well, who seems to
Freddie as well. Yeah.
He's had enough tournament this one, but it's he'll come back from that, won't he?
It's very talented, yes. Yeah.
You've got to be able to lose before you can get better sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And Oliver Stubbs seems to be a regular in these tournaments now.
Yes. Yeah. He's playing a lot. So I'm trying to give a background story, but I don't actually know.
Well, I've seen his name a few times. I don't think I know him personally. There's all these people that you've seen playing online. You don't actually know them. And you might have seen their Zoom chat or something, or Zoom picture, but you don't actually speak to them too much, do you? So there's all these people.
The thing that's coming into my mind, but if I get the wrong person, then please forgive me. But there's someone who did a lot of, during the pandemic, a lot of organising for university chess, which might or might not be Oliver Stubbs, I'm afraid. But anyway, if he did a great job there.
Well, I know that Peter Hornsby is doing the 2020 league, but I don't think it's the same person.
Okay.
That you're talking about. Okay, right. Let's see what happens on the board then.
Anyway,
these two good players. It's
the London system.
Yes, an aggressive response. Good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that when I looked at the percentages for if Black hadn't got E6 in here, goes for the Queen B6 idea. I think the percentages for Black on the, if people look it up on any web chess website, Black scores really well in the line. But with E6 in, you're not able to play Bishop F5, so maybe not.
Oh, really? So a line. So no. Interesting myself here now. So if you don't play E6, but you instead play Queen B6.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, round about here. It seems to score really highly for Black. So London players have got to be prepped up for that. Okay, though. So simple takes. Oh.
Okay.
They're blitzing out their moves at this point, aren't they?
They are. That was, 3 seconds only for that one.
So knight h5 must have been either prep or not maybe prep for this game, but maybe just your general opening theory that you do against the London system. This is how he plays.
Yeah,
the line.
Because I sort of, it feels like bishop. You might drop the bishop back to G3 as well.
Yeah, it's obviously not as well placed on E3, is it? But then again, I guess he just doesn't want to lose it. And he's trying to maybe say that the knight on H5 needs to go back to F6, and then maybe he'll put it somewhere back to F4 and back to G5 or something. So yeah, it doesn't look too good on E3, does it? And maybe Black should be playing for, the knight on H5 is a little loose here, isn't it? Maybe Black should be even playing for E5. I mean, that's a bit of a crazy option. If you really wanted to throw dynamite on the board, that's what you do as Black. But because the C8 bishop is the only problem at the moment for Black. But okay, what happens? Okay, discover the attack.
Yes.
Knight.
Okay, so you can't take that just because the knight on h5 is on praise.
Yeah.
So it does come back. f4.
And that's why the bishop came back to e3, because now this is a much more aggressive position, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. So black does have the equivalent square. So black could at some point get a knight in on e4, though at the moment it can be taken.
Yeah. And here queen b3, I'm not so sure queen b3 was the right option there. Or was there a pin? Oh, that's the problem. There was that was a nice double attack actually by black, because my instinct was telling me not to swap queens here and to play queen c2 to defend the b2 pawn. But there's a problem that you can take on e5 twice.
On e5 and the bishop on e3 is loose.
Yeah, so the drawback of playing f4, which I really liked the idea of f4, by the way, because it's aggressive, supports the center, future ideas of f5, but also it leaves the bishop on e3 unguarded. And unguarded pieces. There's always tactics on these pieces, isn't there? Everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Hang on a minute. What happens next? Is this right?
Knight g8.
But also the time that he takes to play it?
36 seconds.
I mean, what? I'm not sure about you, Natasha, but if I'm playing a move like knight g8, I'm pretty sure I don't go 36 seconds after my opponent's done his move and go, yeah, knight g8. That's the way that the move that I want to play. What is going on? Do I not understand chess anymore?
Yeah. Why do you even need to do knight g8? I wonder.
I don't know actually. I can try and get in his mind by thinking maybe. I mean, he doesn't really want to play f6 because it leaves e6 quite weak. Maybe he wants to go knight to e7 so that he can support the c6 knight.
Yes.
It's the only way I can kind of think it being possible. It doesn't look like a normal move here at all.
No. Okay, so Thea played knight g8. Okay. Takes.
See, with the c pawn being off now, those b pawns being doubled, and then having control of the square in front of them, they look very, very cumbersome, don't they? b7 and b6.
Yeah.
So maybe this was his plan, because he plays knight e7 now, and maybe this is what he wanted to do.
Okay, just to defend this knight, so he doesn't have to defend it with the bishop.
But he's, I mean, he can't possibly be in theory here, but maybe he is, or maybe he just comes up with a solution to a problem really quickly and sorts it out.
Very quick.
I'd definitely be taking a little bit more longer around this time, because this is where the game is won or lost.
Yeah.
And already you can see those double pawns on the b file. They're not losing the game right this second, but long term they're going to be a target for white to attack. Maybe white wants to go g4 here. It's what white might be thinking.
Yeah. Okay. So Theo kicks the knight away, and I guess he'd like white to take on c6 so he can kind of take back with the pawn and iron out this pawn structure. But of course white's going to have none of that, and he just drops back.
So I'm wondering if e5 is black's plan here.
Yeah. So can black actually play e5?
Not at this second, but he has to castle first.
Yeah, it would mean the king was too exposed. So it's a castle first. a4. And knight back.
Okay, that's a nice move actually. Knight a7. I think maybe white he's got his pieces just in a little bit of a mess there. So with the knight coming back to d3, blocks this bishop's retreat, the bishop on b5, and really wants to keep that bishop on the board.
Yeah. But it's actually, he can't at all, can he? Because the pawn on a4 as well. The bishop just doesn't have a square to go to.
Because I thought white was in the ascendancy there, because there's a weakness on b7 and b6, but also weaknesses on e6 as well. So what he needed to do was control e5 to stop black playing e5. So like get the bishop on e3 out the way, stick a rook on e1, that kind of thing. But actually what he's done, he's been clever in putting his knight back to d3. But then it's also blocked his bishop coming back, which is, he needs this bishop. And the other way of stopping e5 would be for that light square bishop to be on b3 here, in the d5 pawn, and it's just not there. And he's kind of made a problem for himself. And now that b5 pawn, because the knight's going to take the bishop, the pawn on b5 is also going to be an easy target for black's bishop on d7. So that's why he plays his next few moves, I think.
So b3, and then Theo takes off this bishop.
Yeah.
And
this looks forced.
c4.
Yeah, the white pawns just look a little loose, don't they?
Yeah.
It's whether he can get...
no, I think this has improved a lot, hasn't it, for Theo in the last few moves with just being able to swap that bishop off.
Yeah.
And actually, Theo's got the f5 square as well for his knight to hit that other bishop on e3 as well if he wants it.
Yeah. It's I think the position has become a lot easier for black to play. I also like king f7 being played here at some point as well.
Oh, that's getting the king out again.
I like these king f7 ideas. Yeah. It just frees up. So if white ever puts a rook on the e file, then he doesn't have to worry about the e6 pawn being taken. Unless he wants to play e5, then maybe he wants to keep the king back there because the f file will become open for him. But yeah, white's under a little bit of pressure here and needs to come up with some good moves to just rectify his position. If he can hold it like this, the status quo at this point, then I think he's okay. But I think the problem is he's going to crumble in a few moves' time when either black plays or gets in e5 at some point, or bishop b4 looks like it's just an annoying square to go to. I think black's the one looking for a combination to win a white pawn here, and white's not attacking any of black's weaknesses.
No, like all these central points, it seems like black has more potential to get there than white does, because black's pawn chain on the king side does guard a lot of these squares. Like this, actually, this f6 e6 is quite nice, isn't it? Just guarding here.
The knights can't jump into anywhere.
No, because this square, while that knight was looking very nice on e5 earlier in the game, now it's been denied it because of this f6 pawn, and the d5 pawn as well is stopping the knight come in this square too.
Yeah, the light square bishop is really missed here as well. And
because that dark square bishop isn't as good because it's just blocked by its own pawns just ahead of it.
So like a move like rook fc1, I think he knows it's not gone the right direction for him, because here, if black wanted to, black's not going to do it right yet, but black could just take an a1 and then your last move is just nothing. He's treading water at the moment, hoping that he doesn't play a losing move. I think maybe white...
It's a little bit for black, is it? Do you think it's how big do you think it's? Like black should be now pretty much winning, or
no. I would,
isn't it?
I think if we were to find the best moves, then I think black's maybe slightly better and compress. But I think it's one of those positions where it's really difficult for white to play, because what do you do? And it's really difficult in chess to do nothing. So I'm looking for an active plan like g4, g5 to see if it does anything. And if you can't be active, it's not always easy to do that. And I think I'm right in assuming Oliver's quite a young player, isn't he, as well?
I
think he is. It's not always easy to know when you're worse and that you have to just do nothing.
He's actually younger than I realized. 2002.
Okay, so yeah, another young player, and maybe he's trying to play c5 here. And then we get some tactics, because bishop takes b5 and then taking on d3 is the idea for black. So black might see this idea that c5 could be white's get out of jail free card. And if black sees c5 is coming and is able to prepare for it and works out the calculations, then white doesn't have much of a plan. Maybe king f2, king somewhere. I don't know.
Get the king in.
I'm struggling for white here, and it's not pretty. But he might have to. These calculations here of the next few moves are going to be key. If black can sort it out and get it right, I think black's got an advantage. But I think jumping back to board one.
I'm going to jump back to the top. Okay, so now where were we? We were in the opening, weren't we?
Yeah, well, I think we'd seen bishop takes f3 and f5 being played,
hadn't we? We got to here, yes.
Yeah, we were discussing this position, and looks like the game continued along a familiar path for a King's Indian.
Okay, b4. So white's playing on the queen side and black on the king side. And we were discussing before, weren't we, the merits of going f4 straight away and saying that it's sort of the thing you want to do at some point, but the lack of the white squared bishop might make it less.
Yeah, because you lose control over g4, don't you? But you push the bishop on e3 back away onto a worse diagonal, but it's just you just have no attack there. So Danny obviously keeps that in reserve for later on down the line. But look what happens next. This is really good. And then
c6.
Yeah.
Andrew's really going forwards on that queen side.
So I think here Danny is at this point, then he's given up on a kingside attack because the center is going to be too open. So that f5 pawn and e5 pawn are going to stay where they are. And he's going to hope that he can maybe take an extra pawn here and survive this white onslaught.
He's taken it off and moves his knight around to b6. Now, actually, this knight does have some scope, it looks like, on the queen side. There is that c4 square. We might find, I was going to say, white might do a4, which white actually does. So Andrew just played a4 and so is looking to harass the knight further. And Danny decides it's better to just bring it back out.
Yeah, well, I mean, he really wants to play knight c4 here, doesn't he? That's the move that he wants to play. But queen b3 is just an absolute killer.
Oh, yes. Look at that diagonal open.
What is it? Queen b3, d5, knight takes d5. Yeah, the discovered checks, so you can't take on e3. Yeah, it's
it does look very dangerous, doesn't it? You'd get pins this way and maybe pins along the d line.
What color squares are they?
All the light squares, and that light squared bishop's gone.
Yes, so white has done a great job here of opening up the light squares and also opening up the game as well because he's got the bishop over the knight. And Danny is definitely in a lot of trouble here.
Yeah, so knight c8. So he comes back around this way and he's going to regroup, I think, to e7. Queen b3 check, getting on those light squares, and b5.
Yeah.
So knight e7. Okay.
And then just a simple rook move at the end, wasn't it? And I think here that Andrew is you see how he's lower on time.
Yeah.
But I think he knows that he's better here.
Yeah.
By quite a way. And it's just the case he's trying to figure out how to actually win the game. This is one thing I've noticed about so Danny, I think, also knows that he's worse here as well. One thing I've noticed about the top players is that even though they might have a really terrible position, they still seem to play quite quickly. Rather than trying to think to get out of the position, they just still play quite quickly to maybe hope that time plays a factor on their opponents as well.
Because I suppose if they're going to get back into it, they're going to need that time. Yeah.
A lot of the top players do that. Time is a part of the game, and I hate people when they come back and they say, "Oh, I just got low on time. That's why I lost." It's part of the game. You have to be able to manage your time appropriately. But White's position just looks so commanding here at this point. It was difficult, maybe trying to find where Black actually went wrong there, though, in that series of moves. Maybe it was just a little bit too naive to think that the knight d7 and maybe just miss c6 was coming, maybe, or just how strong it was, because it looked like maybe the knight coming to b6 was going to be a good idea, but actually if I had to go to c8 and then e7, then it just seems a lot of moves to play while White can play b5, queen b3 check, and all these other moves. I don't know what.
Because White's got so far on the queen side. Because if Black does get this, there is still. I mean, I would say there is still like a bit of a wall across the centre. So it's not like you couldn't do in a king side attack because the centre's so open that you can't do it. But it does look like White's ahead. Got a lot further in his attack.
Well, it's a problem that there's just simple plans now. So and simple things. So at the moment, if Black doesn't play f4, that bishop on e3 is attacking the pawn on a7, and therefore the rook on a8 has to stay there. And it's a simple thing, but it's really annoying. And also White's got a very easy way of creating a pass pawn that's going to win the game. a5, b6.
Yeah. And that doesn't take many moves, does it?
No. So if you ever try and drag the queen away to the king side or the knights away to the king side to attack White, a5, b6 happens or a pawn is lost, and it's game over. White is going to be able to use a pawn to win a piece, and that'll be it. So I don't see any king side attack for Black here at all. Unless it's maybe a desperado kingside attack, because everything else is so bad, he's got to go for it.
Well, and Danny's a very, he's a very creative attacking player. Look, he's going to go for it. He's going to go with this. He's going to do
the slowest possible way. H6 followed by G5.
Nice, gentle, yeah.
Yeah, maybe he has to.
Maybe we'll see.
Yeah, no, it might be a case that his position's so dire. What else can he do? G5 I think is the idea here, and he's going to take back on F5 with the knight. Maybe that's why he chose to put the knight on E7 and take all that time to do that.
Oh, I see what you mean. So if what he could do is G5, and then instead of going F4 first, he goes G4. So if he gets the chance, he goes G4, then F4, and then he's starting. Yeah,
then he's at least in to do something.
At least he's about to do something. But remember, White's got some moves while he's while these ones all build up.
So it's moves here like a really annoying move for Black might be something like, I don't know, Queen E6 actually is probably a more aggressive way of doing the same thing, because then after G5 you can just take on F5 and it just wins a pawn. That is that kind of thing that White's going to be looking for now, just to blunt this kingside attack.
So White kind of has a good control of the position.
And an actual Queen E6, I'm not actually sure. That's actually quite a nice little spot. If it forces Black to play Queen C8, the endgame I know is not going to be something that Black wants to go into. So you can't really swap queens nicely.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I think we're going to see Andrew play a few precise moves here, and say, do you know what? I wouldn't bet against Andrew winning this game.
I wouldn't. On the other hand, I also
it is Danny.
And you can conjure up an attack.
Yeah,
when you're not expecting it. So I don't know. It's I mean I like White's position, but there's still work to do.
Yeah. Right. What else have we got? So so this middle game endgame.
Marcus was going. We went to an end game.
So a lot has happened.
We had this queen takes bishop takes C5. We had all that. And let's see how these guys do in the end game.
Okay.
E4.
Okay.
G4, and so the bishop needs to drops back to B1, defending the pawn.
Yeah.
And that's not too bad for Hebs, because he can always unwind again and just play A3 and kick that knight.
This was nice play by Marcus, just really seizing the initiative here. I don't know if he can do much with it, but stops White castling, which in the game you might not think is too much of a big deal, but actually it prevents the rook on H1 getting into the game. So I think Marcus has just won a mini battle there amongst the minor pieces. But it's whether he can keep his pieces forward, because we see here White's next move is H3.
H3.
Okay, so he kicks.
Yeah, no, it is annoying not being able to castle, though, isn't it, for Hebs?
Yeah, very annoying.
95. Oh, so he's going to try and do. I guess he's trying for F3, King F2, just to get that rook out.
Yeah, that makes some sense, and also overprotects E4, so he doesn't have to ever worry about it. But also protects D3.
Yes.
So I didn't know if Black wanted to do Knight D3 check just to get the bishop pair.
Yeah.
But Black is taking some risks here, because he's also allowing Rook C7 ideas as well, which I don't think quite worked before, because Bishop C6 trapped the Rook in, but obviously with the Knight on E5, Bishop C6 can just get taken. So he's taken a lot of risks here, Marcus has, but I think it looks rewarding.
He's actually going for it. He's not just going, well, let's have a quick draw.
It's what I said, that the queens come off and you think, oh, it's going to be swap off pieces, let's have a draw. But actually there's so much play with these minor pieces, and that passage of play there, I think, was definitely a bit better for Black. So I'm interested to see what these next few
I am interested, because look here, castles, A3, and now Marcus throws in another enterprising move, which is Rook A8, and this takes advantage of White not having castled, because White cannot just move the king out of the way and get the rooks defending each other, and if White just swaps rooks, then you've still got the threat of the rook coming in.
Rook C1 checkmate.
Yeah, That's a big
it's not even committed. It's the end of the game.
Not even just winning a rook. Yeah.
But it's amazing, isn't it, how you can have a position that looked very dry from a few moves ago to now we've got checkmate and one threatened. And A3 was played. Most people would move the knight back somewhere. But no, the checkmate threat is obviously the way to go. And Hebs has got some problems here. And I guess we look at the time on the clock and it's ticking down. We expected some fast play, and it looks like on one side at the moment, Mark is definitely in a little bit of trouble here.
I know, and Black's got a lot of activity, hasn't he, for his pieces?
Yeah.
Just nice. Especially that bit. That bishop on b5 is nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's really nice. Just it's like stopping castling, stopping king e2, and also keeping an eye on that d3 square. And
I just wonder whether Mark Hebden's plan of playing e4 early on was maybe just a little bit too much for his position on e3 and bishop e2 when the bishop couldn't be attacked. So maybe possibly just overplayed what he wanted, trying to be too aggressive to take the center. Because also e3 restricts the dark square bishop from getting back. Maybe I might even play through that game by myself later on just to see where the actual inaccuracy was and why that was the case. I think it's, but yeah, I mean, we got two more moves here as well, haven't we? So
knight b3. So he doesn't allow himself to get checkmated, of course. And so okay, so now another. So look, this knight on b4 is still under attack. But Marcus comes up with another very active move. So he brings his bishop in to a4 here. And so if white takes the knight, black will take this knight and have a better... Well, no, actually, we'll take that, and this b4 pawn will still be on prise. And that bishop on e7.
I mean, I can understand why Mark's thinking there. Oh, he's gone knight a5.
Yes,
the bishop on f4 protects.
Now, what's happening here? Because there's a lot of danger in this position, isn't there?
The e4 pawn is now also. Oh no, it's not. No, sorry, bishop on b1.
Defended by this bishop on b1.
But that knight on a5
but couldn't we go knight c2? Could we go knight c2 check, which then cuts off that defense? So knight c2 check, white could take maybe. But that does give up the bishop pair, and this pawn still isn't defended. So you could take back, let's say take back with the rook. Or could or actually take back with the bishop, because then that pawn's double.
Maybe white plays f3 there though.
But white plays f3 and defends it all. Yes, okay.
Maybe b6 here an idea. Is this knight on a5 going back to c4? Is that the idea for white?
Yes.
Yeah.
That looks like where it's going.
It looks like is that Gawain in the chat?
Oh, hi Gawain. Bishop b5.
Yeah, no, I think he's saying that he liked the bishop b5 move.
Yeah, no, it's a good move.
Yeah. Trapping your opponent's king in the center. No queens on. Still go for an attack. I think he has to be careful. Knight ac4, I think, is what white's do. I don't think white's really wanting to take on b7. Maybe you will if you can get away with it, but it looks very risky. Knight ac4 looks like a much more just trying to close off the c file and then try and get castled.
Yes.
Damage limitation at this stage. So I'm interested to see what Marcus does about this. I mean, you've got some great ideas there with knight c2 check, maybe claiming the bishop pair and doing some other things, but maybe b6, knight ac4, b5.
Knight ac4.
I don't know if the pawn on b5 actually helps us or not. It's a very tricky position. Just give me 20 minutes just to analyze this, please, Natasha, and then I'll come back to you with an answer.
A thrilling game building up. Okay, we'll keep moving on, and we'll see what happens in a little bit.
Yeah. So
this other one amongst the leaders, Nick Pert. Again.
Yeah, and we had this pawn sack, didn't we, on c3? And
we did. This was also a very thrilling game. So now, where did we get to? We definitely had bc3, queen c7. Let's take it from here. So takes here, queen c7, bishop d3, and we were sort of wondering where this king was going to go. Okay, so so Joe just calmly brings his queen back to its starting square. So actually Joe has no pieces out at all, but does have this extra pawn. Castles.
Yeah, I don't know why. Was queen d8 necessary there? Am I missing something?
It's a good point. Why did he do it? So why wouldn't you just go knight c6?
Was d5 a big threat here? Or, I mean, rook c1 didn't seem to be a big threat because of knight c6. So I'm just wondering what the situation is there. Am I missing something massive, or could he just have played bishop e7 first?
Bishop e7.
Or knight c6. Maybe you really wanted to take on d5 with the queen.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So bishop e7, d5.
Okay. I mean, maybe it's just one of those things that when you're kind of under the cosh in the game and somebody's got a lot of pressure on you, you start getting scared of things very easily. Maybe somebody in the chat can tell us why did
I guess Black still has some choice for where to put that bishop, doesn't he? So he could.
True.
You can imagine it on e7 or else on d6. Yeah.
Or was the idea something along the lines of if d5 is played, he's got to take the pawn, and then he was a bit worried about maybe blocking on the e file with bishop e6 because of knight d4, and then that also has knight b5 tactics as well.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm not buying it. I think maybe just bishop e7 here means is a lot simpler to play. And then you can play queen d8 later on if you need be. I think maybe d5 was not too much of a threat, but I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. So I'm surprised at queen d8 here, but he played it in only 2 minutes, so maybe this was his whole plan of what to do. Okay.
Queen d8 castle.
Oh.
Hello, dog.
We've got a delivery.
Okay.
What's my wife ordered?
Knight c6.
Yeah.
Bishop e4. So it looks like he is still going for this d5 plan.
But if the queen was on c7 here, then he'd be defending the knight on c6 as well with the queen. Because also there's the taking on c6 idea here.
Yes.
So it looks like white's manipulating black's pieces here. And maybe black's kind of gone one way too soon, queen d8, perhaps.
So bishop e7, knight in on e5.
And the d4 pawn is, I'm guessing, unable to be taken.
Very hot pawn, I guess.
It looks very hot.
Yeah. Yeah, because you could always at least check and take the d file, couldn't you?
I wonder how hot that pawn actually is.
All right.
Is it maybe queen g4 or something like that that's going to make it really hot, or queen h5?
I can play moves actually just here. So
can you?
Takes like that.
I mean, the choices is just...
There are a lot of choices, which I suppose is part of the thing.
Oh, maybe just taking on b7 is just a simple way of doing things, but...
Just take... And...
Or even just hold that in reserve and start with queen g4, queen h5 ideas.
Yeah. Queen g4. White's not going to castle, I wouldn't think, here. Yeah.
No, I think you could... I'm not even sure about queen g4. I think maybe white has got queen g4 or queen h5 or something active. And then the worst case scenario is that white just has to take the pawn b7. So it's like a load of good choices and the worst choice.
But also you can't you like queen? Oh, I suppose they've got king.
Oh, you can't play bishop d7 here.
You can't go bishop d7.
You've got to go king f8. So that's the simple
go king f8. And
that's better.
It sort of feels like, I don't know, you could kind of line up on the d file, or there's probably better moves, but
yeah,
it just feels really dangerous.
To be honest, I just missed that tactic with because you can't block on d7. And you can't play
because of the knight. Yeah.
So okay, so it's actually a lot simpler than what we thought it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So okay. So we took on e5 then.
Yeah. We took on e5, takes, and queen to d4.
Another queen move.
Yep. That queen's getting a good outing. Okay, and so black's just going to try and take something back in the center. White can defend. So white just defends bishop with queen c2, and steal that pawn on e5.
Bishop c3 would come too quick, wouldn't it?
And it's just going to be horrific.
Yeah.
So bishop d7, just trying to get the pieces out. I think that's sensible.
But I think the problem here for black is that white's obviously winning the b7 pawn here. I think he's just deciding which way he's best to take and whether there's any other moves he can do in between. But
I know, because that queen hasn't got huge amounts of scope there.
No, and if he can't, there we go.
Taking it on b7, yeah.
He's going to have to move the rook, and if white can emerge out of this not even being a pawn down, if he's got an initiative to do something, then he could go on to win the game around this point.
Yeah.
But it's a case of where's this rook's got to go to. I mean, d8 looks safer, but hang on, d8 you've got bishop a5.
Oh yeah, yeah.
b8 doesn't look safe, but maybe it is.
Maybe it's the best he's got. So, yeah, rook b8.
Maybe bishop a5, bishop c7.
Yeah.
Wins the exchange.
Yeah.
Black's got to be really careful here. He's tiptoeing around, otherwise he could just be lost. So maybe rook b8, bishop a5, bishop d8. Although I'm saying that on there could be a simple tactic here, here that we're missing. Rook b8, bishop a5, bishop d8. Because I can't see any other way to stop bishop c7.
Then we can go maybe just putting rook on the d file, like rook fd.
Yeah, and that's going to win.
And you might even have a sack on d7 at some
point. Well, maybe after rook d1, let's say the queen moves somewhere, and then you've got.
So we're saying rook b8, bishop a5 here, and then just rook d1.
Yeah, and also bishop c6 is also a threat as well, because the rook on b8 is unguarded, bishop on d7 will be unguarded. In a second.
So it could be queen moves, rook takes. If the king takes, you got bishop c6 check, and then you pick up.
Or is there queen c6 check, king e7, bishop b4 mate as well?
It looks horrible, doesn't it? It looks really horrible.
Yeah, it does. So maybe this bishop d8 move is just asking for a lot of trouble.
Can't do it. Yeah.
So, and I don't think he can play rook. So rook b8 looks forced.
Yeah.
To me, so rook b8, bishop a5. Maybe not bishop d8, but if not bishop d8, what then? Castle kingside frees up the e8 square.
Castle kingside is something you'd want to get in, isn't it?
Hang on, rook d1 here.
Rook d1 still.
Queen a4 or bishop a4?
Yeah.
Okay, black's escaping here.
Queen a4.
Bishop a4 is more tactical, but queen a4, let's just say that for a second.
Queen c7.
Queen c7.
I don't know. It's a bit complicated.
No, nice move. Nice move. That bishop on d7 is...
Because you've got these bishops lined up, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, what, rook fd8 here is... this is crazy. Maybe there's something better than bishop a5, castle kingside is... Maybe after castle kingside, maybe you want to play bishop c7 first to force rook e8.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
There you go. So bishop a5 at castle kingside, bishop c7. Okay, let's pretend that black doesn't want to sack the exchange. Black might sack an exchange here and try and nick a pawn and try and hold the endgame.
Yeah.
But here and now, your idea of rook d1.
And then...
or maybe... Maybe not.
It's still complicated.
I mean, maybe here, even if you do go for your queen a4 idea, maybe even white can just exchange queens and then just try and win the a7 pawn in some weird and wonderful way.
It definitely feels like white has some possibilities here.
Actually, after rook d4, where does the bishop go? The bishop's got to go to c2.
c2.
And let's just say we attack it again with the rook. It's got to go back to f5 or g6. And then we play rook a4.
Yes.
And we say to you,
yeah,
what are you doing? You can't even play bishop d8 here because of bishop d. Oh no, hang on. Bishop d8, bishop c6. C6. Yeah, that's nice. As long as there's no back rank threats here, it wins the exchange. She can't take the bishop on c7 because take the rook on e8, and you get this rook on c1 attack in c7, and also rook e7. You just got bishop d6.
Yeah.
If you can't play bishop d8 there, what can you play?
This looks it looks nice, doesn't it? It looks nice for
and there's going to be loads of variations around there that we haven't even scraped the surface off, have we? So
yeah,
I'm not even sure we'll touch that, but yeah, I definitely prefer to be Nick there. I think Nick's gonna. I think what Joseph will probably be looking to do is sacking the exchange, trying to get a pawn.
Yeah. Well, okay.
We did have a result. Peter Finn did beat Starley, by the way.
Okay. Let's just see the end of that.
Did beat Robert.
So we had this. So we saw it up to knight coming into f5, and we thought you'd have to take it, which he did.
There's a lot more moves than we thought.
Yeah. I thought it was over just then and there, but here, rook e3 he did. That was what we were looking at here. Peter did an exciting move here. He queen takes.
Queen takes e7. Nice.
Flash way. Yeah.
Flashy.
Yeah. So of course, if rook takes, then you've got knight takes, forking the king and queen. Knight f4, check here. And this is just really strong for white. Oh, a fork back again. A nice fork back again for Robert there.
The desperation.
But checkmate.
Yeah, I think he knew it was probably lost.
He knew all about it. He was just making sure
he was just allowing checkmate on the board, which is quite nice of him.
Okay.
Yeah, now it's getting to f5. It's just such a simple idea. Worked really well.
Very good. Okay, now do you need to leave? You need to leave roundabout.
Yeah, I probably need to go and take my dog out for a walk, which is probably be a good thing. She's pacing around the kitchen at the moment, so
yes,
telling me that I need to do my job.
Fine. Well, thank you so much. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks everybody. Also very much in the chat. Thank you all very much for watching.
Bye.